Ladies and gentlemen, music aficionados from around the world, today we have the distinct privilege of sitting down with a true luminary of the music industry. She's a vocalist whose voice has graced some of the most iconic tracks of our time, a former singer-songwriter of the sensational group The Coolnotes. Not only that, but she's also lent her incredible talent to chart toppers like Jamiroquai and was the featured vocalist on the unforgettable UK top 5 hit Don't Make Me Wait with Bomb the Bass. The Coolnotes, with Lauraine McIntosh at the helm, carved a legacy with their string of hits including Spend the Night, In Your Car, You're Never Too Young, I Forgot, and My Tune. Their journey led them to the prestigious Stock Aitken and Waterman label, where they released two tracks, Make This a Special Night and Love is a Freaky Thing. But Lorraine's story doesn't stop there. Since her days with the Coolnotes, she's become an indispensable presence in the music world, collaborating extensively with the likes of the Lighthouse Family, Rod Stewart, Lyndon David Hall, Beverly Knight, Richard Ashcroft, Shalimar, the 1975, and Andy Williams. Her career has been an international whirlwind, touring the globe with music legends, including Mary J. Blige. In a remarkable twist, Lorraine even collaborated with her son Bradley McIntosh from S Club 7 on the heartfelt track I Will Find You under the alias Little L. She's also recorded tracks like Afrotino with Derek McKenzie, showcasing her wide-ranging musical talents. Today, Lauraine McIntosh continues to be in demand and is celebrated as one of the most respected and professional figures within the music industry. Join us as we delve into the incredible journey of this musical virtuoso and learn about the moments that have defined her life and illustrious career. Welcome to this exclusive podcast interview with the incomparable Lauraine McIntosh of the Coolnotes. Welcome.
Well, what an introduction. Good morning, Diane, and thank you so much for
Good
having me.
morning.
And I feel very honoured and privileged with that most amazing introduction. And to be quite honest, thank you so much for having me. I feel very blessed and honoured that you have asked me to come along to do this interview. Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted. As I said, I'm feeling a little intimidated, but I'm looking forward because you've chosen 6 tracks that kind of give it a bit of an insight, but I want to know more about you. So let's find out when you realized that you had this gift.
Um, I didn't really think it was a gift, to be quite honest. I think it's what every little girl and boy did when they were growing up, listening to the radio or watching TV. I mean, what I used to do, or what my dad used to do, is back in the days when it was Top of the Pops was on. I'm not even sure if it was called Top of the Pops back then. My dad used to put the telly on or put music on and get me and my sister and my brother to dance and sing along. And I think every little girl used to pick up the hairbrush and sing along. And I think that's what we all love to do, is like sing along. And I think that's the start of it, really, was just having fun singing along to music when you were little. And as you progress, I went to school and progressed with my friends, little girls at 11, 12, 13, making music and just having fun, being young and enjoying, that feeling you get when you're happy and you're having fun, and it's the joyous feelings that I kind of like to relate to more these days as to what makes you feel happy. So that's music made me feel happy.
So, where were you living at this time? Your father was putting the television on to Top of the Pops or its predecessor. I can't remember what its name is. You got me there. And give us an insight into family life. Were your parents musical?
Well, my family means so much to me, my mum and dad, because they had a journey, and that with the music that I've chosen today, it represents my mum and dad and the journey that we've come along. I mean, I was born in Kilburn, But my mum and dad, they had a very, my mum was from England, she's British, she's now passed, and my dad was from Trinidad. So they had a very interesting start in life, meeting each other. My dad came over from Trinidad on a supply ship from the Falklands, supplying things to the Falklands, goods to the Falklands. So he would move backwards and forwards. And then he was part of that era coming over in the 50s. And I don't know if how far back you want to go, but my mum and dad, this is where the music started. They met dancing in Ronnie Scott's. They loved, their love of music was dancing to swing music, jiving, and they've told me these stories, which mean so much to me because that's my mum and dad. And yeah, and music I've chosen today is part of what has set in my heart.
Well, my parents are from Trinidad too.
Hey.
What part of Trinidad did your father grow up in?
Port of Spain and Marabella.
The
Port.
capital.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how many siblings are you?
I have an older sister, 3 years older, and then I'm in the middle. Then I have a younger brother, 3 years younger. So there's three of us. Yeah.
So, other than it being a happy time dancing to the music in front of television with your father, what were you like as a student at school, a young pupil, sort of primary school age?
Oh, I was happy. I'll tell you completely honestly, I was such a happy child. Because yet again, my parents made sure that their duty, and I'm sure it's what most parents want to do, is make their children happy. So mum and dad despite all the racism and things that were going along I don't want to give my age away, but going, in the 50s, 60s, it was a hard time for our parents and, black people, mixed race people back in those days. But my dad worked so hard. My mum was an amazing mother. They made sure we were clean and smart and went to school happy. And I was a happy child at school. Yeah.
And did you go to church?
We did. Well, I used to belong to the Brownies, and on Sundays we used to have to go to church. I didn't quite get it, but I was like, why have we got to go to this place? And I was always very scared of church, to be quite honest, because I always found that they were always dark, and you look up at these, statues that were always very scary for me. Until I grew up and sort of got to understand about religion a bit more. So, yeah.
So let's go on to your first choice, Ella Fitzgerald, I've Got You Under My Skin. Why have you chosen this one?
It's because I call them photographic moments when you're somewhere and you like on a beach or somewhere and you go, oh, this is gorgeous. Look at this. And you capture the moment and it's in your mind. I think when I was a little girl and I would be in the dining room doing a puzzle or some drawing, I was probably about 5 or 6 maybe, I'm not 100%. And I remember my mum being in the kitchen baking cakes and they'd have the radio on. We'd always have the radio on in our house, but my mum, and that was my first photographic moment, I could say, of just doing my drawing or a puzzle and then listening to my mum in the kitchen singing along to Doris Day, Ella Fitzgerald. And it was a lovely moment that I thought, oh, listen to mum singing. Doesn't she sound so sweet? And it was my photographic moment of then. And it was, like I say, it was Doris Day, Ella Fitzgerald. Mum and dad loved jazz because that's where they met. And I just think it was one of those moments that I'd caught my mum singing. Happy. She was happy. When she was just making her cakes. My mum used to love making cakes. But yeah, and there were so many songs I could have chosen, but I always felt like mum was singing those songs to my dad secretly. So yeah, Ella Fitzgerald was played in our house loads,
That's
jazz.
lovely.
Yeah.
A beautiful story.
Mm.
So when Did you start to realise that you might be pursuing a career as a vocalist? You're you're talking about being there at the table doing a puzzle or drawing or something, hearing your mum sing along to Ella Fitzgerald and others. What were you thinking about becoming, if at all, at that time?
Um, I also think back then it wasn't a conscious decision, but I just didn't think because back in those days we didn't see many, as we all know now, I didn't see many black people on the telly. So you never had that thought that you could be, you had the fantasy singing along into the hairbrush and pretending for that moment while you're singing along that, oh, you're in that fantasy moment. But realistically, I don't think in my mind it was ever something that I thought I would be. I thought I'd be an air hostess, a nurse, or something along those lines because I think that's what I don't know, living in, like lower class families as well. You just didn't think you could ever be an artist, or that was never your dream. Air hostess was probably, oh, one day I could maybe go on an aeroplane and, be an air hostess. Because I think that back in the day, that was one of the things that lots of people wanted to be, lots of little girls maybe. So I never really, even at that stage, thought that it was achievable to become a singer or an artist. Yeah.
And did you get on well with your brother and sister?
Oh yeah, always because we had each other, and I think sometimes my sister used to bully my brother a little bit. Some ashamedly say. But now we're the best friends, so that's okay. We've got over that. It was the boy girl thing.
He
Go
forgave you,
steal
did
my
he?
game. Oh, go away with your guns and things like that, and He-Mans or whatever they had back in the day. We were playing with our dollies, and we didn't want him to join in. So, yeah,
Speaking about playing with dollies, have you seen the Barbie film? Just as a sidetrack.
I have not watched it yet. I've yet to. I hear it's brilliant, actually.
Well, it just takes me down memory lane when I saw it. Anyway, back to you and your story. So, your sister, was your father a singer around the house as well?
Oh, I don't think I ever heard Dad sing ever. To be quite, he loved jazz music, and he just loved good music. He'd sit and tap his feet and sit in the armchair and stuff like that. And I was always inspired because once we got a record player, because back in the days when we first started out, we just had the gram. That's it. We didn't have no TV until we moved from Kilburn to Clapham, South London. That's where we kind of grew up, roughly from the age of, for me, myself, from the age of about 4. We moved to South London. And then I remember one day coming home and we had a TV, which was, and a record player. It's like, as you probably know, it's a progression because having a TV, and then we had a color TV, so we were going up in the world, and that's when we started to see, all those TV shows, Top of the Pops and stuff like that. So yeah.
Do you remember anything about that move?
I do because my dad bought the house in Kilburn, and unfortunately, back in the day, things weren't quite as straight, and my dad got kind of ripped off, and we had to move. And so we moved to my grandmother passed away, and we moved to the house that was my mum's family house before she met my dad and got married. And we moved to well, I wasn't born there, went to Kilburn, so we moved back to my mum's family house in Clapham. That's where I was raised since the age of, from the age of 4 onwards. Yeah. The move,
Let's get on to your
I
second
was
choice.
the move itself, it was just like I said, mum and dad protected us of everything. So back then, I didn't know the reasons why we were moving. I mean, mum and dad were like, there was nooses put out outside the front of our houses and all sorts of racist stuff. It was terrible. But I suppose moving, although my nan had died, and we moved to the house, I think for me, mum and dad made it like, we're moving house. And we were excited about it, even though there was a lot of really, like bad things going on underneath why we had to move. Yeah, so moving to Clapham, mum and dad made it like, oh, we're moving somewhere new, and we were excited about it. So moving to this new house was exciting for us.
Let's get on to your second choice, Marvin Gaye. What's going on?
Oh, I have to look at my list now because I can't remember what my second choice was. You have to, oh, my phone seems to have conked out.
Marvin
What's going?
Gaye.
Was it Marvin Gaye, the second one? What's going on? Okay, so I think growing up and becoming more of a well, first and foremost, I would say my sister and my dad were obviously on the radio. We were hearing more black music, more current music, and I think my mind was a little bit more what's going on in the world, and the records and the music that was played on the radio. And becoming a bit more of a teenager, I was paying more attention. On the telly, we'd seen the Vietnam War and not really understood what was going on. And, when you're growing up, you become inquisitive what's going on, and you realize this little world that your mum and dad have made for you, this happy little, pretty little world that they provided you with. And then dad would come home from work and we'd put the evening news on the telly, and I'd see all this horror going on, and you didn't really realize in your little world that they'd made for you that all this other stuff was going on in the world. And I think you start going, oh, that's really horrible. And then my sister used to always buy records, and my dad did. And then I just started listening to the lyrics, and then just start understanding really, what's going on in the world. It's not quite as lovely as mum and dad had made it out to be. And you grow up and you become a teenager and start listening intensely to lyrics and find out what's really going on. Then you start putting the puzzle together of little things you've seen along the way, and you realize mum and dad have protected you from this stuff. So I think Marvin Gaye was one of the outstanding moments for a lot of people because there was a lot going on. And that's the first time I'd listened to lyrics, and things had starting to make a bit of sense, really.
So were you questioning the people around you as well at that time?
No, not my mum and dad, because they just always provided the most amazing life for us. They did. They really did. They blessed to have had such wonderful parents. I didn't question them, but there was a lot of things that had gone on in our mixed race family. We were always told, "Oh, children should be seen and not heard, and go in the other room and don't listen to what what we've been said." What they were saying, but of course you listen and and I do know that when my mum and dad met, that my mum's family disowned her, and she had to leave the house and go. And as you go along, you put the puzzle together, you start listening to the stories, and then you think, oh, so mum had to leave. Her stepdad threw her out. They didn't want a black man in their family, and that's why my mum and dad obviously met at Ronnie Scott's, fell in love, made a life for themselves. Or my dad tried to provide this lovely house for us, which wasn't. I remember it being really cold and having baths in a tin bath, and it was freezing in Kilburn. But and then you start putting things together that oh, other things go on, and you start putting the puzzle together that it wasn't all lovely. You don't question really when you're younger. You just take note, I think.
Have you ever had that conversation with your mother about what happened to her? And did she ever process that time in her life as well?
Um, m- I'm not sure if it's the generation. Um, Mum did tell us a few little bits, but it's like almost like she'd only go so far and then dismiss it and didn't really want to. I don't know if it's because she'd buried a lot in her mind when she didn't really want to bring, because she'd painted such a lovely world for us. It's almost like if she'd said it, it would spoil it for us. But she did, we did prize some things out of her eventually. But it was very hard to get her to speak about things because she'd get upset. So yeah, she wouldn't really. I think that
And what
generation were a
about
bit.
your father's view? And what about your father's own perspective of what happened to her? Was he supportive?
Oh,
because
yeah.
he had his own challenges, as you highlighted earlier.
Yeah, my dad supported mum and us amazingly. I mean, and but then the thing is like we had white family. We didn't have any black family. It was all white family, and then I didn't really question it either. But my dad obviously left Trinidad, came over as a 18, 17-year-old boy, so we never had any black family. Dad never really spoke to his family in Trinidad until much later down the line when he contacted his stepsister and they started a relationship. And then as the years went by, we had more contact with his mum and his sister and brother by letter most of all. They it was all done by radio telegram and stuff like that. Letters. Yeah, but it's not
Have you
until I
ever
went to
been to
school.
Trinidad?
I have, yes, I've been. Was it once? I've only ever been once. I've only ever been once, and that was about 10 years ago because we built up a relationship with my nan who came in 19, I think it was 1976. Nan came for 6 weeks and stayed with us for 6 weeks, and it was really nice. But don't think I really spent a lot of time with her because I was just getting on with my life, going out and doing whatever I was doing. And it was lovely for Dad. But after she went back home, probably about a year later, she passed away. So I only ever saw my black grandmother for, say, 6 weeks ever. Yeah, but we kept Dad kept in touch with his stepsister, who I'm still my auntie, who I'm still in touch with now, and she comes and she's been and spent several, like once a year for several years with us, and then myself and my sister went to visit her in Trinidad, met all her family, which was lovely.
What did you get to see in and around Trinidad if you were able to travel around at all?
Oh yeah, my cousin and my auntie took us all around. We went to Tobago. They drove us around, made it really special for us. Yeah, and they took us around, and it was just really. I didn't know where I was half the time, but it was just really interesting to see. This is where my dad grew up, and when we'd drive along, and my auntie would say, "Oh, this is where your dad would be, play or whatever." But a lot of it had changed because remember, it was like 50 years down the line, 60 years down the line, and a lot of things in Trinidad had changed. So there wasn't very many. There was one place called something pudding, something pudding, where they used to make all the puddings. Yeah, where my dad used to work. So that was really nice. And I'm glad we got to do that and have a little bit of dad's history.
In Tobago, did you manage to go snorkeling on the Barrier Reef?
Didn't go snorkeling, but we stayed in a lovely. They got us a lovely house to stay in, and we went for the weekend actually. So we had a lovely house, and we just chilled out really on the beach. It was nice. It was nice. I'd like to go back again actually and take it all in again. Yeah, spend more time.
Let's get on to your third choice, Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye. Stop,
Yes.
listen to your heart.
Yes. So there was Marvin Gaye first, which was amazing. Listening to that, which obviously my sister and my dad had bought the album, just to sit and listen, like I said, and listen to the words, and everything started making, like wow, what was this man talking about? It makes sense. But then he had an album with Diana Ross, Marvin Gaye and Diana Ross, and my sister bought that album, and I'd listen to it non-stop, and I'd love Diana Ross's voice, and I just listened to it. I think everybody's sort of played the record back then and learned every little bit, and even to the fade out, you'd turn it up to every last little word. Um, yeah, and that was one of the songs that I used to play round and round and round again. And I love Diana Ross. I love Diana Ross because I think, like I said before, the TV shows, that's what we would see, the Diana Ross show or the Andy Williams show or the, Mark. Those were the black artists that Shirley Bassey. Oh, sorry, just hit my guitar. those were the people that we would see on telly, and that's the kind of, they're the only idols we saw really on the TV. So Diana Ross was probably one of the artists, and Shirley Bassey, one of the artists that you'd see in the sparkly dresses with the hair and the lights and everything. So and I really did love that album, Diana and Marvin. So that was a poignant moment for me, just listening to her voice. And yeah, lots of music, because like I said, there was all sorts, Barry White, Aretha Franklin, everybody going in my house. But I think the Diana Ross record was the one that I used to listen to and sing along to.
So when do we see Lauraine McIntosh begin to get interested in singing and developing that as a career?
Well, even at that stage, even when I was 12, 13, I didn't still think I was going to ever enter music. I still was thinking, okay, you've got to do your exams at school. And I was like, well, I don't know what I want to do. I really don't know what I want. I didn't really like school. I just wanted to chat and play with my friends, which was terrible. Looking back on it now, it's like, oh, you need to apply yourself. But like I said, me and my friends used to form groups and sing, and we used to go to, we went to school in Tooting, and there was, what was it called? There was a hospital there for not mental, I don't know sorry, don't mean to use the right word, but it was a hospital, Springfield Mental Hospital, I think it was called. Excuse me if I've got that wrong. But myself and my best two friends used to make up songs and dance along. And then we went to the hospital and asked if we could entertain the patients. And that's what we used to do. We used to go along once a month and perform and sing and make music and try and cheer people up. There. So that at that
So,
point, I still didn't know I was going to be in music. The music happened for me was when, just to get to the point of how it happened, was, um, like I said, always sung along to records and enjoyed it and went to clubs and danced. And I met, who is now my ex-husband. He was only 14 or 15, and he had formed a band in his school called the Coolnotes, Coolmonts, I think it first started off, because it was on Coolmont Road. And we met, and he'd already formed the band and had some other singers, which were from my school, girls that I knew. And so me and him started dating. And two of the girls left the band, and he said, "Oh, we're looking for a new singer. Do you want to join?" Because he'd heard me singing along to records, and I said, "Well, I like music, and I never thought I'd be in a band, but I'll give it a go." So that's what I did. So I joined, not taking it seriously, but just thinking it was going to be like a hobby and something I'd do on the sideline while I investigated further what I wanted to do with my life. But kind of joined it, and I had other jobs. I worked in the solicitor's office and stuff, which I really enjoyed, actually, working in the solicitor's office as a Girl Friday, because I learned lots of different skills. And I really enjoyed that. It did stimulate me, working in the solicitor's, Mishcons it was called, which was, Lady Di's. I didn't know it was Lady Di's solicitor at the time, but they taught me everything there. I loved it. Switchboard, opening the mail, going down to the law courts, reading all the affidavits, and I really got stimulated by that. I loved it. And sometimes I've looked back and thought, oh, if I wasn't in music, I wished I'd pursued that career, because I never ever thought that I would have been clever enough or been offered a job, to do something like that. But anyway, so back to how so I ended up in the band, and it kind of just stayed. I just stayed.
so what was your first gig? This chap had invited you to front the band, and you're kind of still at school. So, do you remember your first gig?
I do. It was at Brockwell Park Lido, and I'm not sure what gig was for. But back in the days, because we were at that point, we were a reggae band, and so the boys, before I joined, they'd already done a couple of gigs, and I've actually got a photograph of when I done my first gig, and it was in Brockwell Park, Lido, and it was a reggae event. And back in the days, I don't know if you remember, a lot of the men used to go to Domino's clubs, and that was their thing. They'd go out and they'd have reggae DJs playing in the background with their sound systems, and the men prior to the dance would all meet up and play dominoes, smashing the dominoes on the tables and having a drink and having a good time. Then later on in the evening, it would turn into a dance. So I remember my first gig. It was Brockwell Park, Lido, back about giving it away, about 1974, 75.
So, at what moment do you recall the singing career taking off?
Um, I don't know if I ever did, really. It was a little bit of I was in the band, we were getting gigs, just more gigs started coming in. I was in the band, more and more gigs started coming in, and it just sort of evolved. So, and that was the journey. That was the start of the journey. We just kind of got more and more shows, and off it went, basically. Yeah. And then, it was hard. It was hard because we had quite a lot of gigs. We were up and down the country in the back of in the back of a Luton van with all the equipment. There was only like 3 seats up front, and everybody would have to have a turn. Girls in the back, the back of the van, sitting on top of the boxes, until we got to Birmingham, and that's how it was back then.
How did your parents view your singing career? Because, as you said before, you kind of alluded to a sort of a strict upbringing, but your father had this interest in music because that's how your parents met.
Mm.
How did they view you becoming a singer?
I must say, like I say again, they never went, "Why don't you get a proper job?" Because I was earning money, and I had their support 100%. My dad even used to come along. My dad used to help. He used to help pack the van with the other people's dads and stuff like that. Because we was all very young, and they used to kind of chaperone us, and by like driving the van and helping us with the equipment, Dad was along. Dad was there, and my father-in-law. Well, it wasn't my father-in-law at the time because we hadn't got married yet. But my father-in-law was the manager. They were good friends, so it was a bit of a day out for the dads as well. Yeah. They supported us all the way.
I'm impressed
It was
by the
great.
support that they gave you.
They wanted one to make sure we was okay, never got ripped off by anybody. We were all too young really to drive, or never, especially to get all the equipment there. We had to hire a big truck. So either my dad or one of the other gentlemen's dad, Mr. Francis, which was the old Black Joe OBJ's dad, we used to rehearse in their house, playing reggae music till 10 o'clock at night, really loud. And they used to say, "Come and rehearse here." We didn't have to pay it. Oh, we were so lucky. It was amazing. And I think the dads formed a little bond as well. So it was like the dads, little gang. And they loved it as much as we loved it too. So we had support from our dads and our moms.
Track 4, Bob Marley, Wait in Vain.
Yeah, because we were like in a reggae, like I say, the band was reggae at that point. Bob Marley was the man yet again because he was the only one we'd see on telly, well, apart from in that playing that genre, and he was just like blowing up. Well, Bob Marley was the man, and I don't know. I think when that tune came out, we were all just, "This is brilliant." When Bob Marley started, becoming famous, more and more famous, he was the man, wasn't he? He was on the commercial front, really. Everybody liked him. The white people, English people, you name it. Everybody loved Bob Marley. We talk about reggae. That was the only name that people, they thought that made reggae music, but it was very commercial. And yeah, it was lovely. Yeah, good times, good
So,
times.
when did you realize that you had made it as a singer? What was your first kind of pinch me moment?
Oof, gosh. I don't know. I think maybe when we changed from reggae, or actually no. So we put a couple of records out, as you know, because "You're Never Too Young" was one of the songs that we put out, and it became number one in the reggae charts. I think I'm not sure if that's 1975 or 76, something like that. And we got to number one in the reggae charts with "My Tune." And I think that was one of the moments where we thought, wow, this is amazing. We're number one in the charts. That was a really good moment. But then a couple of years down the line, we started to do soul music. And then it kind of went on from there that, yet again, from the 1970s, we just worked in the music. And then we changed over to the soul. And, then we went on to have our hits in the
How,
in what year? I'm
how
trying
did
to
you
think
get your
what
record
year it
deal
was.
in the first
90s,
place?
80s, 90s. It's a bit of a journey, but it was a continual journey because we just worked all the time. And then we had our hits with, In Your Car, Spend the Night, and You're Never Too Young. So it was great. We were having a good time, enjoying ourselves because it was work, but we was enjoying ourselves. It wasn't like it wasn't like we put one record out and had overnight success. It was a 20-year journey. Um, yeah, I never ever thought, oh, I'm famous. It's just like this is work and we're having fun.
How did you manage to get your record deal in the first place?
Um, the record deal that we didn't actually have a record deal when we started off in the reggae. There was a man called Mr. Johnson down on in Brixton. He had a little record shop called Jammer Music, and he put out our first record for us, and that's how it went. It was kind of just like one-offs. The people would just do one-offs with us, yeah, and that's how we got our first record out. He put it out for us, Mr. Johnson. God bless him.
So now you are a professional singer and you're gaining a reputation. When did you move out of home, or did you continue to live at home whilst your success was happening?
Oh, when I was 90, yeah, no, I mean, I lived with my mum and dad till I was about 18, 19, and got my own place because myself and Stephen had our daughter called Natasha. And yeah, so we had our own place. And yeah, it was easy when we was living at home because we had we had loads of babysitters. But obviously we were still working, but we had lots of help from our family that were all, from both sides. They were very, very supportive. Yeah. So yeah.
And what are your siblings now doing at this point?
My daughter, she works in accounts. She never really was interested in the music because I think she'd been pushed from pillar to post from such a young age. Can you babysit? We're doing a gig. Can you babysit? We're doing a gig. Sometimes she used to have to come along with us. So she does that. She does accounts, and my son Bradley, who always loved music. He used to dance along to Michael Jackson and stuff like that. So he's ended up in the music business and has been very fortunate with his career. He's a member of S Club 7, and they're about to embark on a new tour in October. Yeah, and the O2 and Manchester Arena. Well, I'm not sure which venue it is, and then they're going to America. So we're very proud of my son. Yeah. So yeah, he's doing.
Your siblings, your sister and brother, you have a child and you're still living at home.
Oh, sorry.
What
Yeah.
was your older sister and your younger brother doing?
My sister was always into fashion and going out. She loved to party, and work. She was always working. She loved fashion. My brother was a little bit more of a homeboy, to be quite honest. Keith, his name is. My sister's name's Maureen. Um, Keith, he was a bit more of a mummy's boy. Mummy used to bake cakes and he used to love it. But he worked. He's always worked. He's been a fantastic worker, and he's done lots of different odd jobs. But he's so happy to please. He's just lovely.
We know that the music business in previous years has been a lot harsher for women. How was your own experience of growing up in the music business, particularly in the 70s and 80s?
Part of me coming back to do my solo, because I've made a new record called Can I, and I had a long break when I left the Coolnotes. Oh, this will make sense in a minute. When I left the Coolnotes and I went off and was doing my touring around with different artists and studio work for different artists, and then people said to me, "Why don't you come back and do the not the Coolnotes, but come back and make new music?" And I didn't really want to do it. But part of it was because I've had such a lot of experience. I wanted to come back to help women and do whatever I can and share my experiences, good and bad, with anybody that's starting out in the music business, because it's not all been the lovely picture that mum and dad painted for me at the beginning. When you get on your own and you've got a family and you're working in the industry, you realize it's not so wonderful every day of the week. It's hard, especially when you become a mother and you've got a family, children to look after, long hours, tensions in the band and stuff like that between people, which happens everywhere, I know. But yes, I definitely wanted to share my experiences, and that's one of the reasons I've come back out. I want to share, if I can, some way.
So can you explore for me one of your lowest points in the music business?
Yeah. Um, Being in a relationship and married to somebody in the business is a 24/7. You're with each other at home, you're with each other on the road, and it's not easy being married to someone you're with 24/7. Not every day of the week. Let's say that fairy tale is not always a sunny day. It's hard. Yeah.
But what about being, you started out at 17, 18, singing, touring. Yes, you had your father with you on occasion, but, doing some of those gigs up and down the country, not
Hmm.
all of them were glossy and shiny and glamorous, were they?
Oh no, because I think once you had the children, you have to think about, you've got to get them to school, then you've got to drive to Manchester. So your day starts, you've got to find the babysitters, you've got to travel all day, you're not on stage in some cases till midnight, and you do the gig and you come home. Then you get home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you've got to pick the kids up or to get them ready for school the next day. There's a lot to it. And not only in the music industry. I'm sure there's a lot of women out there that single parents or whatever. So we're all in it. But in the music business, the 1 hour or hour and a half you're on stage is the best bit, because there's a lot more. There's a lot more to the day that goes on before you turn up and look glamorous and perform at midnight. Yeah.
So any sort of incidents when the van broke down en route to a gig and
Oh, there was so many incidents, for some reason, when we first started up, there was the like meeting times, 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. And someone's like, "Oh, I got up late." What do you mean? We're supposed to be leaving. We've got a 5 hour journey. This is to Birmingham. We've got a 5 hour journey, because back then they used to drive really slow in the vans, and we needed toilet breaks, and we'd always end up, it was really bad. We'd end up getting there late, and embarrassing. We'd end up, we'd get there late, and then we'd have to put the equipment, well, not us, but girls would have to help too. Bring the stuff out, the microphone stands or something. All hands on deck, basically, all hands on deck. And we'd all help, and then they'd plug something in and it wouldn't work. There was always dramas, but the show would always go on. We'd always get there in the end. And there was always dramas. The boys may be arguing, about the set list, or you can imagine, can't you?
On
I'm
to your
laughing
fifth
about it, but
choice.
I'm laughing about it, but I can assure you, at the time, it was not. It was not. Yeah.
So let's get on to to the Jackson 5. Got to
Mm,
be there. Why have you
yeah.
chosen this one?
Oh, I maybe put that one in the wrong order. I can't remember, because I felt like before I met my partner, I'd never been in love before, and I think the Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson, his voice, and he was so gorgeous. And I had him on my wall, and I used to just listen to his music and think, if you need a girlfriend, I can be the one. You know what us silly girls do. But it was part of the hormones. It was part of growing up. It was I fell in love with Michael Jackson, to be quite honest, and I used to play the music, play that record round and round again, look into his eyes on my bedroom wall, just thinking, if you only got the opportunity once to meet me, I could be the one. I fell in love with Michael Jackson.
Did you ever meet him?
I did. I met him twice, actually. One time, I'd never done anything like this before, but all the girls said, the Jacksons are going to be down in the Churchill Hotel. It was either a Saturday or after school one day. So me and my friends went, let's go. We might see them on the balcony. So went with my friends, I think I went with my sister and a couple of friends. We went down to, I've never done anything like that. Never would have occurred to me that girls did this. So anyway, we got to the hotel, and there was girls everywhere screaming and crying, and one of my friends went, come this way quickly. So we ran down into the garages of the hotel. I think it was called the Churchill Hotel in London, and the security guys were trying to stop us, but my fear was I didn't want to get separated from who I was with. So I kind of shrugged off this security guard so I could be safe with my friends in numbers. Got down, and then the bodyguards went, okay, you can meet the Jacksons, but you've all got to queue up here by the lift, the elevator in the car park. And so we all stood in a long line. There was probably about 20 of us that got through. And so the Jacksons came down in the lift. The security guards kept the door open. And then the girls would come along one by one in this queue and meet them. Oh, goodness me. I was so excited about meeting them. But all the girls started to cry. And I was like, why are they crying? They should be really happy that they're going to meet the Jacksons. This is amazing. I was about 13 at this point. And it got about two girls before I got to the lift. And then I just started crying because I got caught up in this euphoria of the moment. And so when my turn came and I put my hand into the lift to meet the Jacksons, I couldn't even see them because I was crying so much. So I shook their hands and said hello, and then I was ushered off. So I did meet them. I didn't see them because I had so much tears in my eyes. That was once. The second time was my husband and myself went to Madame Tussauds. We took the two children out for the day, and Bradley was only little. I think he was about 1.5, 2. And yet again, something about lifts. We had to go up to, I'm not sure, I can't remember, had to get in the lift to go up to where the floor of where all the statues were. And we got into the lift, and I looked down, and I saw this long arm just hanging down like this, and I was like, "Oh!" The man stood next to me. He's got really long arms, and I looked up like this, and I looked up. It's Michael Jackson stood next to me. I was like, Michael Jackson stood next to me. Anyway, when the lift got to the floor, my husband was behind me with Bradley in his arms. My daughter was next to me. And I moved out the lift, and Michael Jackson patted Bradley on the head and said, "Oh, he's really cute." He was only a baby. And just him and his bodyguards got out the lift and walked off. And me and my ex-husband stood there and went, "Can you believe that? We've just met Michael Jackson." So that was the second time. Weird. That weird.
How disciplined are you as an artist? I interviewed another lady yesterday, an American lady who's been on tour with Barry White and various others of that sort of ilk. And she said in those days, you knew that if you were not 100%, you didn't have a job. So how disciplined were you?
Well, moving from being in the Coolnotes to then leave, well, in my days of the Cool, I think when you're in a band, it's a bit different to when you move over to doing, working with other people. But it's a different mindset of what you've got to do. But yeah, I just think you just have to be professional. I've learned that along the way. When you move to work with other artists, you have to know your lines. There's a lot more to just singing, to be quite honest. You have to be very professional. You have to turn up on time, which was something we learned from the Cool Note days. You have to turn up because we got turned back. We got turned back once. I'll just say this for when we did a gig with the Cool Notes. I think we had to go to Scotland. And we got there, meant to go on at 12. I think we got there at 11 at night, or the van broke down or something. And we got there, and the man said, "You're too late. You're too late. You can't come in now. You have to go back home." So we had to turn around and drive all the way back to London. That was, anyway, so we learnt about timekeeping. But yeah, I think the bigger picture is when you start working in any capacity, in any job, is you have to be professional. You have to turn up on time, look good, get on with people, have fun, do your work. Which, yeah, any job. Don't you have to do that? Any job.
So which do you prefer? The recording studio or the performing?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with some great bands, and I love the live stuff. It's such a vibe. It's such a vibe. It's such a vibe when you're on stage in front of, whether it's 500 people, 18,000 people, 70,000 people. When you're soaked up in that atmosphere, providing you know your stuff, because it's a little bit. Sometimes they go, "Oh, we're doing a new song." Like in the dressing room, "We're going to do a new song," so you've got to learn your bits. Once you're comfortable with what you're doing, and you go on that stage and you're singing, and you're just looking at all the happy faces looking on towards you, it's one of the best feelings in the world. It doesn't not necessarily for you, but you're part of this act, and so it's amazing. So that hour and a half, whatever it is, just looking at all those smiling people singing along, having a good time is absolutely wonderful. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah, but
On
I've during lockdown I've finally taught myself how to record my own voice, because over the years I've just got sessions and gone to the studios and had engineers and recorded, but during lockdown I taught myself Logic, so that's what's brought me on to recording my own voice, writing songs, and just enjoying being in at home. I was going to say indoors then, which is really old fashioned, isn't it? Back indoors. I'm just going indoors. No, but being at home, just recording, being creative, and writing music in the comfort of my own home. So I'm really enjoying the recording and writing at the moment.
let's get on to your sixth and final choice. This is also one of my favourites. The
Ah,
Whispers, Treat Her Like a Lady.
yeah. Oh, I can't remember. I haven't, for some reason, my phone won't work, so I can't remember what year that was. But I remember going out to the clubs and the music. Look, when we used to go out,
1981.
is it? that era. Listen, when we used to go back out, when we used to go out to clubs, whether it was to do a PA or do a gig, the music you had Michael Jackson, you had the music that we grew up on is timeless, isn't it? It's those songs on the dance floor, hit after hit after hits that you could dance to, be happy, positive, in love, lyrics that would be about love and look at this lady but treat it like a lady is one of the photograph moments where I thought I always want to be treated like a lady. Why not? And that song, whenever it came on, was like forever and ever. I want to be treated like a lady. The Whispers were are a fantastic band anyway, with the producers that used to churn out all those wonderful songs. I feel very blessed that I grew up in that era where songs had meaning for us all, not like the songs they write today, which I think it's not all about sex and up and down and I'll dance like this and twerk and stuff. I think our songs in our era of our growing up had lots of meaning, and I'm so happy that I grew up in that era. So the Whispers, went to see them live, Treat Her Like a Lady, was something I said I always want to be treated like a lady. If I act like one, but
I want to make an observation, and don't take this the wrong way.
okay.
Chatting with you, you've got such an easygoing nature. You're very warm.
Thank you.
Um, and I feel that you've gone through your career quite happily. Nothing has necessarily been planned. You've just fallen into a career of singing and so forth relatively easily. I don't get the sense that you've had to work that hard for it, which is not a criticism.
Oh,
But chatting to you now, hearing your recollections of the past, you're very happy.
yeah. You've got. I don't know whether I've made it come across that way, but when I when I reflect on it, of my years in the music business, you're right. I feel like I fell into it. It was like, yeah, I mean, I must have done something right along the way. There's been girls that can sing the pants off of me. I always wanted to be a big mama gospel voice and sing like the girls from the church, and I haven't got that voice, but I do feel like the package. Turn up on time, be nice to people, people like you do your job, and I think it's that package. And maybe it was the maybe it was the picture that mum and dad painted for me, that little happy world, which has carried through and I'm truly grateful and truly blessed that I've had this career, and I've had my mum and dad that have been wonderful. They've both passed now. Um, but I just feel very grateful that I had two people in my life that struggled in their, in their early days being together, and I feel blessed every single day that they have paved the way for me. I'm not saying it hasn't always been easy, because there have been hard times, but I look on those now as it's just lessons in life. You have to learn things. You just have to learn and move on.
On that note about lessons in life, I want to take you back to dancing in front of the TV with your father in your home.
Mm-hmm.
And if you had the opportunity to say something of words of encouragement to your younger self then,
Mm-hmm.
what might you like to say to her?
Oh, wow. I thought about this a lot of times, because I actually want to be that person that can help somebody else. And I think if I ever get that opportunity to speak to somebody 12, 13, 14, 15, no matter what it is, because it's not a regret that I've had, but I do wish I'd applied myself better in school, because I probably didn't apply myself because I never thought I would be clever enough. But you're always clever enough as long as you apply yourself and try. I wish I'd tried harder. Not that I wouldn't have gone down the singing path, but it would have been really nice if you value yourself and try harder to be something else. I was lucky, but I think my word of wisdom would try, just try. And if you fail, don't worry, try something else, just try, because you don't know what's out there for you.